Hello everyone, this is Jorge Diaz, President and Founder of Larry Jacob Internet Marketing and an Infusionsoft Certified Consultant. I bring you another episode of Defining Infusionsoft Success. I'm fortunate today to have Ian Garlick. It is not Ian, it is Ian Garlick. Hey, Ian, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you breaking out of your busy day.
I love to talk to you, especially about stuff like this. So this is fun.
Good. I met Ian last spring, and then I saw him again a couple weeks ago at Jackie McClellan's speaker event. She has speaker events in Phoenix, and this is the second time that we've both met each other in Phoenix, even though we're both from Florida, me in Miami and him in Orlando. But he is a video guy, and interestingly enough, he's a story guy. We were talking as we were preparing for this, in that we're both techies that focus in our areas. You know, I'm in membership. He does a lot of video work. But it is so important to talk about the marketing strategy. And so we're going to be talking about the marketing strategy, and really we're going to rename it. We're going to talk about the stories, the things that kind of attract people. So, get started. Ian, why don't you, Ian,
No, everyone does it.
Ian, why don't you go and introduce yourself? Tell people a little bit about, you and Authentic Web.
Sure. So Authentic Web, we're a video marketing agency. We create the marketing strategy for small and medium-sized businesses. We produce the videos, anywhere from 10 to 100 videos for our clients, and then we help them market it through distribution channels, from websites to Facebook ads to YouTube to video SEO. Video SEO is really where I got my start in search engine optimization. I got my start in social media actually well before in New York City, when I was in commercial real estate. And I used social media to get in front of big name clients, because social media at that time was not a busy channel. It wasn't even called social media, so. Well, then after that, the real estate, I saw the real estate collapse coming. So I took the marketing skills and went to work for a large Fortune 100 company, doing marketing consulting, and worked with law firms. And videos start to come around, and I've always loved filmmaking. I've always loved video. And so we eventually started our own video marketing agency, my wife and I.
So do you have video training? I mean, is that your background, or?
I have no formal video training. I've always loved it and learned on my own. I'm a voracious learner. Cool. So if I start down a path, I will go buy every single book and learn everything possible.
Right.
My wife actually has a master's in 3D design and animation from NYU, and worked for Nickelodeon, Miramax, and so she worked for, and so we co-founded the company. So she had really the real training.
Although let me tell you, just so you all don't know, his last name is Curry. So yes, it's garlic and curry, which I just can never forget that.
I know, a match made in the kitchen, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so we've been working with small business for a long time. I'm a real process-oriented person too, business-oriented. So I think part of our success is not just making pretty stuff, not just telling stories, but telling stories that sell and actually develop good businesses. And I'm big into the science of it too. So I've worked it all out and developed processes over the years, and really I love helping companies grow using video, using story, and grow in a way that, it affects what I call the true bottom line. Meaning you can grow revenue. I could just drive traffic to someone, get them phone calls, but they're not going to be really happy. And I want to build businesses for people that they really enjoy.
Right. And so I always, because we're building the Infusionsoft side, the membership sides, that we receive the traffic. We work on the conversion side primarily. You're from what, the way I see you guys is you guys are one of the ways to pitch the ball to the catcher. Because you're generating traffic, you're hopefully trying to make it so that it's not a slider that's so hard to catch that us catchers will drop it. But I mean, that's kind of the way you guys are. You're trying to get the right kind of traffic using the video to people's either opt-in pages, sales pages, or whatever their sales process is, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, everywhere, we talk about know, like, and trust. For any relationship to happen, someone has to know you first, then like you, and then trust you. because you can't skip over any of those points. So we help people to all across the board know, like, and trust. So we know people from what's called cold traffic, which I'm sure a lot of your guests understand, to warmer traffic, showing them that video, more about your story, to trusting you and using video to really convert them, and also remind them too of why they hired you, why they got into your funnel, why they joined your membership site. So yeah, we use video all along that ways, and it's because you can tell the same story in different ways over and over again.
Yeah, and then you had mentioned when you presented to us was that the more they see you, the more they like you, which I really hadn't really connected that. But you were saying that if people see you over and over again, I mean, they may dislike you too. But if you're giving the right message, if you're connecting with them, by seeing them, they've already know you. Now they're crossing over into that like phase, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, the more someone sees you, if they connect with your message, they're going to like you naturally. But there's actually some science behind it, something called the mirror exposure.
And this is where I wanted you to go with this.
Yeah, the mirror exposure effect is it's a scientifically, I mean, it's for the most part proven. It's still a theory because they haven't identified the parts of the brain that are triggering it. But for the most part, it is theory. But it's proven that the more someone sees a face, the more they're going to like that person. Because here's the reasoning behind it, and the theory behind it is that up until a few hundred years ago, we saw the same 40, 50 people, maybe a couple hundred people for our entire life. And if we saw someone regularly, to develop good social groups, we had to like them. That's how we survived. So our brains have instinctually developed that. So, I mean, video is maximum 100 years old, if you include film, the base of film. So now we're tricking our brains. And if someone can see your face more often, you become the authority. I've got a great story about this. One of my clients, actually, I was in his office shooting some video, and they had a new client come in, and he's like, "Oh man, I've seen your commercials all over TV." The guy's never been on TV before, but because he's had the videos and he showed the videos to him so much, this guy actually thought he knew him from TV. And it's amazing. Yeah. People will like you, and you become the authority.
Yeah, and I hadn't realized that until, I mean, the way you just described it, until I went to InfusionCon or ICON last March, and I'm sitting with someone at the partner area, and this guy goes, "I know you." And I'm looking at him, I go, "Man, I'm really sorry, but I'm just not seeing." He goes, "You're the guy on the program." And apparently he had seen this program and had heard me, and it's interesting because I'm getting to know him for the first time, and he's talking to me like if he had known me from before, which I just thought was really interesting.
It's amazing. It's such a powerful effect. And and the big thing I want people to remember too is you don't have to have everyone that are, if you're in a highly specialized field and there's 5,000 people that you want as customers, which is a big, for most of us, if we had 5,000 customers, 5,000 high paying, we'd be high, but you can capture 20% of the market. I was talking with Tucker Max about this. One of his customers only sold 1,000 copies of her book, Book in the Box. They only sold 1,000 copies of her book, but she had a 5,000 person audience. So that's 20% of the market had her book. And if you can get 20% of the market to watch your video, man, you're an authority. And that's the strategy. That's really hard for people.
Well, and here's the thing. When I look at my audience, I sell the majority of my services through referrals with other partners. There are, I mean, we know this for a fact, there's only between 400 and 500 other partners that are certified. And there might be maybe another 500 that aren't certified. So my target audience is that small. So, and I know where these folks hang out, social media, specific groups, they ask questions. And if you look at the membership market, it's even tighter. So I don't have to be a superstar in front of a 300,000 person stadium. I want to be, the big guy in the small pond.
Yeah. And you can be the authority to them. Man, they come pre-sold to you, right? Because they've seen George. I've watched your program. Of course I'm going to hire you, right? No, but I mean,
it's interesting. It goes a long way. And, until a customer comes up and points something like that specifically out, that's when you make the connection. But there's a lot of this, mojo going on behind the scenes that then makes the sales process that much more natural.
Oh yeah, for sure. And for every one person that says I watched you, there's 100 lurkers that will never tell you that they watched you.
Exactly. Well, and it's funny because people, whenever, like, we send out a lot of emails, and as a result, you get complaints. Everyone, hey, leave me alone, and opt-outs. And it's like, if you're not getting complaints and if you're not getting opt-outs, it means you're not working hard enough.
Exactly.
Because it's a bell curve, and if you're not getting the bad ones on this side, it means that on this side you're not getting the good ones. So that's just fine.
Yeah, like if someone doesn't try and negotiate with you on price, that means you're charging too little.
yeah, those kinds. Hey, so let me ask you. You spent a lot of time talking about stories, again, because that's part of the like factor. Kind of elaborate a little bit more on that, because I think, again, this is the second time I've heard you talk about it, and there's actually another guy that I listened to that talks a lot about stories. Kind of elaborate, because that's a lot more important than you would think, especially me coming from a tech and a corporate background.
Oh yeah. So I mean, we think in stories. We tell stories to ourselves. We rationalize decisions based on stories. We buy membership sites based on stories. We say, if this person bought it, they're like me. This happened to them. I can have that happen, but I have to overcome this. And so understanding the format of the story is very important, because what we try and do so much is just tell the results. We try and say, this is what happened in the end. As marketers, we're like, well, this is the result, so you should be happy with it. I made $1 million, but we don't tell the whole story, so people don't get connected to the results. The science is proven, though, if you spend enough time connecting with someone, if you spend what's called the first act of the story, if you think of 3 acts of the story, the connection phase or the exposition phase, if you spend enough time connecting with them at that part, then they develop empathy. And then when it gets to the next phase, which is the conflict, the problem that arose, now that someone's going to pay attention to the conflict even deeper.
You seem like, so you're describing kind of like a sales page, really, aren't you?
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. I mean, well, the sales page is based on the story method.
Right. And that's why I'm trying to demystify this. But I mean, you're describing at the beginning, it's like, what's your world? Why you? Who are you? Right.
Yeah. And the biggest thing to remember when using a story to sell your business is the most important story is their story. It's the person's story, and how you can connect your story to their story. And that's so crucial, because people come up to me all the time. They're like, "Oh, you're a storyteller. I want to get my story out there." But I'm like, "Well, what are the stories of the people that you're trying to serve? Mm-hmm. And what are their stories? What are their problems? How does your story connect into there?" And that's why we're so good at selling in person and so bad often at selling online, because when we know the person's story in front of us, then it's easy to sell. But when we get online, we don't have anyone to talk to.
Yeah, the feedback is zero.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. And for example, if I go into my story, it's like, here I am, year 5 of my business, and I really have to spend more time now looking back at what was it like 5 years ago, because a lot of my customers are, kind of where I was before, and being able to relate that. For example, I struggled and I was in corporate America and, that whole struggle. And finally I took the jump, not because I wanted to, because they fired me. I mean, that alone right there, I know I can relate to it because I went through it. But how many people that are now in business is kind of like, dude, he knows me.
Yep. Yeah. And the more points of that story that you get up to line with your ideal customer, that target audience, the more they're going to connect to you, the more they're going to pay, the more they're going to know and like you. It's going to make it easier for you to get them to trust you.
Right. And then now I could be selling cars. I could be selling membership sites. I could be selling something else. It's interesting how those two things don't have to be like exactly, tight, right? Because they can like me. They can, okay, they trust me. I don't need a membership site, so great. But, there's referrals. There's other things then that you can leverage.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, once people trust you and you keep providing value to them in some way, shape, or form, even if they don't buy from you, they're going to talk about you. And when it comes time, if you have a very specific market, if you have a very specific story, when they encounter someone with that story, they're going to tell your story to them.
Yeah. Now, we both know Jackie McClellan, who is the master of video. And go out and look her up. She was actually a guest at one of my shows a couple of times back. I followed her only because her videos were so entertaining and funny. And then, so this going 2 years back, then I meet her, and I'd spoken to her on the phone, and my question to her is, what are you selling? Because I mean, honestly, I couldn't tell. And I ask her that all the time because she's the master of putting video out, of making herself likable. And then, what are you trying to sell me? And it's interesting because it's not that it never comes, because she's making a good living, but that's not her point at all. And she does such a really good job of that.
Yes, yeah, it's true. And I was actually, I may have written about today about that, but Walt Disney did it best. He said, I'd rather entertain than educate and hope they're entertained.
Yeah.
And same thing, I'd rather entertain first, then sell, rather than sell, then entertain. And if you entertain enough, if you provide enough value to people, they're naturally going to want to buy something from you. And they'll raise their hand. You won't even have to sell them if you provide enough value, if you entertain them enough. I mean, that's why they have celebrity endorsers.
Right.
Because we naturally want to buy from these people. Between the mere exposure effect and the fact that these people provide so much value to us, we trust them.
Yeah, and by the way, to credit her, this 2 talking head format I got from her. Because I asked her, I go, what tools are you using? How did you go about it? And she was interviewing people, and I wanted to have something similar like that. So she kind of gave me the inside scoop on how to do this, which frankly is not rocket science, but let's give her a little bit of kudos.
She's awesome. She's really good. Yeah, she's got a good radio show now. She's got a lot of stuff going on. I love her.
Yeah, and I'm probably going to see her at the Mastermind event that was announced at her event with Jay Fussell in December. So awesome. It looks like she's going to be back in Phoenix. I may be a part of that as well. So
very cool.
Hey, Ian, thank you so much for this time. I think this was a good way for people to just think through, where's their video, where's their story, whether it's on video or not, and that can be a way for them to, consider marketing themselves a little bit better. If people want to reach you, how can they reach out to you?
Probably the best thing, if you really want to start selling with stories, you can go to iangarlic.com, and I have on there a resource. It's the 9 systems for actually finding your case studies, your case stories your customer stories, because sometimes we just ask for reviews. It's 9 systems that we use to get those. I think that's the best place to start out and learn about what we do, and it will help every single business. I like to get focused, but literally, if every single business starts getting those case studies, those case stories, man, they'd have a much better business.
So it's a download, or I guess a lead magnet of some sort that people can learn how to tell their story better.
Yep, I'll send it over to you, and you can send the link out with this.
Yeah, I'll include the link. As a matter of fact, now I'm curious. It's like, okay, let me get something concrete to go over. But hey, thank you so much for breaking out of your day. I know that it's end of the week, and we both we're headed to the weekend. So thank you for joining me, man.
George, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Great. Hey, have a good one.
You too.